In this video, we're going to be talking about level. And level is one of the many attributes that an element gets assigned. If you're transitioning over from AutoCAD, they're called layers in AutoCAD. They're called levels in MicroStation. Level is one of probably the most important attributes that you can get right. If we look at our Home tab in the top left, we can see in our attributes group, there's level. It's right now currently set to alignment main or align main. If I click on this, this is referred to the level picker, you can then choose a different level to be your active level. So if I choose, for example, alignment local street, that becomes my active level. When you are drawing a feature, it's not just the level that you need to get set correctly to be compliant to standards. You also need to get color, style, and weight. Now those can be set automatically by using some of the CT tools provided by Caltrans headquarters. And we're going to take a look at that. Before we go to the CT tab though, I would like to keep my attributes group available to me when I switch to different tabs. So I'm going to right click anywhere in this area, go down to Pin Unpin Group, and I'm going to tell it I want to pin it to all workflows. This will make it available when I transition to other tabs. To go to the CT tab, I just click right up here, and you're going to see there's my attributes. I'm doing this to illustrate when we use the CT line style selector or the template manager to change the active settings, we're going to see them because our attributes group is available. I'm first going to select the template manager. This will open up the CT template manager. Now there are different disciplines here at Caltrans, and this is currently set to RD or roadway. And if I click on this, you're going to see the different features that you can draw. Now I'm going to be choosing, let's say, contour major. When I do this, I want you to notice the level and color, style, and weight that change. So when I choose contour major, you'll notice that they change to be compliant with the Caltrans standards. So this is one way for you to be compliant. Now, obviously roadway is just one of the different disciplines available here. We can change this by going to select XML file. You will see a list of different disciplines. For example, if I wanted to go to, let's say, landscape, I would select this file. I'm going to double click. You can see now LS for landscape. If I expand that, you're then going to see all the different features available when you're doing landscape. So for example, if I did area mulch, if I select that, again, you see the attributes change up on the attributes group. So this is a way for you to be compliant. You also can choose for text down below, if you're placing text, you can set the text height for the correct scale drawing you're doing. 1 inch equals 50 or 20. I'm going to go ahead and close this dialog. The next one is going to be CT lines. I'm going to click on this icon. It's going to open up the CT line style selector. Just like the template manager, this one also has disciplines available. Right now, you can see the UT, that means it's set for utility. To change that, you can select Set Select for .lsf files. LSF stands for line style file. So if I click on this, you can then choose a different discipline. So for example, if I choose roadway, now my feature list here is for roadway. And then if I click on one of these buttons, let's say number 5, we can see up at the top on our attributes group, our attributes change: level, color, style. Sometimes weight changes, sometimes weight doesn't change. So these are two ways for you to be compliant with the Caltrans standards. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. Another way for you to be compliant is if you have a drawing that already has elements in it, and these elements, these features, are on the correct level with the correct attributes, you can use the Smart Match, which I'm going to demonstrate, to set the active attributes. So I'm going to zoom in on an area here, and let's say I wanted to draw another one of these blue lines, which happen to be conduits. If I go to my Place Smart Line tool, I'm going to hit Spacebar. I'm going to go to Placement, and I'm going to choose Smart Line. If I start my line, what you're going to notice is that my attributes do not match the sprinkler conduits. To match that, I would hold down the Alt key and I would data on one of the other elements, and you can see it matches that. So I can Alt data on another element. Alt data, and I'll match those attributes. This is a quick way for you to be compliant to the standards, providing what you're matching was compliant. If the element you're matching is not compliant, then the element you draw or create will not be compliant. At least it'll be consistently wrong. So I'm going to hit reset. Now the next thing we're going to look at is our level display. This is how we turn levels on and off. So I'm going to do a fit view. I'm going to open up our level display. I'm going to go back to the Home tab. And under the primary group, we see level display right here. So I'm going to click on this. This opens the level display dialog. This is where you go to turn levels on and off. You don't go to level manager, you go to level display. On this dialog, across the top, we have some icons and a button list. We'll take a look at those in a bit. Next down, we have the target area. This shows us we have no reference files. It's just our active file. And then below that is the list area. This is where we see our levels listed out. The way the level display dialog works, in the list box at the bottom, you see the levels listed. If it has a blue background and white text, that means the level is turned on. If it has a white background and blue text, that means the level is turned off. We're going to go ahead and turn off a level, so I'm going to go ahead and select this level. And what you were seeing over on the left, that level was turned off. You can see it now as a white background. So if I continue to select here, you can see levels will be turned off as I go through. Now you'll notice that we have a column that says used and a column that says name. You have options for additional columns. If I right click on the header of either one of these two columns, you're going to see a list of other possible columns to show. Name and used is the streamlined version that gets you most of what you want. So that's the one most people choose. We'll look at description maybe a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and click away. Now to turn all the levels back on, I can right click in this list box, anywhere in the list box. I'm going to get options like all on. I can turn all the levels off. I can invert my on-off state. And we'll also look at off by element. So I'm going to turn on all the levels. Now all the levels are turned on. I'm going to be turning off levels by selecting an element on the screen because this is a really helpful way to do this. I'm going to show you two ways to do this. I'm going to right click in the list box. I'm going to choose off by element. It puts me in a tool called change level. I'm going to select an element on the screen. I'm going to left click. By picking the element, MicroStation knows what level it's on. I've turned that level off. If I pick another element, you can see I've turned that level off. Now as you're doing that, you may, if you have the level display dialog open, notice the level being turned off, going from a blue background to a white background. If that level happens to be farther down the list where you can't see it and you wanted to turn the level back on, how would you know how to do that? A simple way to do this is do a view previous. If I go to my view controls along the top of the view border, there's view previous. Each time I click it, and if I haven't done any panning or zooming, each time I click view previous, it shows me what the view looked like before I turned off that level. So I can easily go and turn all the levels back on. Or if I want to, I can just right click and say all on if that's what I wanted. So now all the levels are back on. So that's a quick way for you to go ahead and turn off levels. And the other way to get to that level off by element is move your cursor into the drawing area, press and hold the right button on your mouse. You'll see the context menu. About a third of the way down, there's level off. That is the same tool as we were accessing from the level display. Sometimes people don't leave the level display open, but they do like that tool. In the context menu, press and hold the right button. It's always available to you. The next thing we're going to look at are level filters. Up here, you'll see there's a little funnel. This is for a filter. Right now it's set to none. If I click on this, you're going to see a list, and this is provided by headquarters. These are different disciplines and ways of looking at your levels. So if I choose, for example, alignments, what I'm going to see are only the levels that pertain to alignment. Now, this isn't just for the level display dialog box. This is every place in MicroStation now in this file that you see levels listed. So if I come to the level picker on the attributes group, at the very top, you're going to see where it says level filter. It tells me alignments. I know I have a filter, and I'm only seeing the levels that are part of that filter. Now, this is something that you need to be aware of, even if you don't use level filters. If somebody opens a file up, sets level filter to be active, and then they save settings, when the next person opens that file up, they're only going to see on the level picker or in the level display or any place you see a list of levels, the levels that pertain to that filter. And if they don't want to see those levels, they want to see something else, that can be confusing. So tell your neighbors, tell your friends all about level filters so that they can see the benefit and that you won't have to worry about setting the filter to be active and then for them to become confused because they can't find their level. Either that or set the level filter back to none. So if I change this here, I set it to none, I'm back to seeing all my levels. Now these level filters can be used in other ways too. To the right here, you see a little button that says levels. What it's talking about is what's showing up down in the list box. Right now, we're just seeing levels. If I click here and I change this to filters, what you're seeing are a list of predefined filters. If I scroll on down in the list here, let's say, for example, landscape. If I choose this filter, in view number 1, it's going to turn off everything except for landscape. So if I select it, you can see on the left, it's filtered out everything, and except for your active level, okay, because that can't be turned off. If I unselect it, everything is back. So this is a quick way for you to basically filter things out. Now, changing this back to levels lets me see the levels. So it kind of has a dual purpose there. Now, the filters can be used to search. Your level names are somewhat descriptive, but there is a column called description, which I'm going to show now. I'm going to right-click, open up descriptions, and then I'm going to extend out the dialog here. Now you can see, for example, ESA area, it says environmentally sensitive area. So we see a little bit more of a definition of what that level is. We can search now based on the description or name if we wanted to. We would set our filter here to untitled. What this does is it produces a row at the top. It's a light yellow color. I could then click in there and I could search based on what I want to. So for example, I can say erosion. I hit enter. It then looks at all the levels available to me from all the disciplines. It will then show me all the levels that have in the description the word erosion. So this is a quick way for me to basically search through my list. Now if I clear that and I hit enter, I'm back to no filter and I'm seeing everything. This can be done in the name column also, but sometimes there's descriptions that have words that are not showing up in the name column. So you may find that to be more helpful to have that open. So I'm going to go ahead and close that, turn off that column, and I'm going to resize this and put this over here. The level display dialog, like a lot of dialogs, can be docked, and I'm going to demonstrate that. If I go to move this, what you're going to notice on the 4 sides are what are called docking indicators. If I move my cursor over one on the right, I get a gratiated preview area. I'm going to release. Now, there's my level display dialog docked on the right side of my screen. It's currently pinned open. That's why the push pin is pointing down. If I unpin it, it then rolls up to the side. To bring it back, I hover over the tab. It flies back open. As long as my cursor's on the dialog, it will remain open. I can then turn on or off levels. As soon as I'm done, I move my cursor off and it collapses again. So this is true of many dialogs. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this open so I can undock it, drag it back over here. Now the next thing we're going to look at is something called Level Manager. So I'm going to go to my primary group again up here, go to Level Manager. Again, the Level Manager is not to be used to turn levels on and off. And I'm going to show you how people thought that is what they're supposed to do, and it's not. So Level Display, that's where we go to turn on our levels. I'm going to set that back to none. So if I come down here and I right-click on one of these headers, there's 2 columns, Global Display and Global Freeze. I'm going to turn those 2 on, and I'm going to demonstrate something that you may encounter, not that you did it, somebody else did, and you're trying to resolve the issue. So on the Level Display dialog, if I click here where it says View Display, that's where you should leave this set. That's the standard. There's other options. Global Display, Global Freeze. They are tied to what you see here on the Level Manager. Now, if I set this to Global Display, And if I open up a second view, if I turn on or off a view using global display, it'll turn it off for all of the views on my screen. And if I have models, it'll turn it off in there. So if I select some levels here and turn them off, you'll notice both views have them turned off. If I try and turn them back on, you're going to notice they don't turn back on. But if I look here on my level manager, you're going to notice in the global display, they're unchecked. So I now need to turn them back on. And I can just select and do it all at once. So now they're back on. So this isn't a good way for you to turn levels on and off, because somebody else would be looking at that and they would say, why is it not turning back on? So that could create a problem for them. Now the other one is global freeze. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to set this to global freeze. And AutoCAD users are generally familiar with this concept. And these two options, global display, global freeze, they're actually there in MicroStation for compatibility with AutoCAD, because we can open an AutoCAD file, and in order to do that, we have to be able to support functionality. So global display, global freeze are there to support AutoCAD functionality. It's not something that we touted in MicroStation. So with that said, I'm going to choose global freeze. Now, if I was to turn off a couple of levels, you see they turned off in both views, all my views, and you notice I see check marks down here. Now, if I close the file and somebody else opens it and they have their level display set to view display, what they're going to see are these grayed out, and they're not going to be able to select them and turn it on. And if I hover over it, it will say global freeze is off. And what it means is up here on the level display, it's turned off. If I change this to global freeze, I can then turn them back on, and I can do that from the level display dialog. So we should be leaving this set to view display, and when you turn levels on and off, it depends upon the view that you have active. So right now, view number 2, you can see this is a light blue. That's the active view. So as I turn levels off, it's only affecting that view. I turn them back on, you can see it affects that. If I click on view number 1 title bar, again, light blue, and it says level display view 1, now I know which one I'm affecting. Now, if you really want to see better which ones you're affecting, there is another option right here, dialog settings. If I click on this, and if I come down here and I say follow active view, and I uncheck that and move it off, you're going to see view buttons now. This is kind of the old way we showed it in the prior versions. This way you see which views you have those levels on. So if I turn this off, I'm only affecting view number 1. If I turn it on, I'm affecting view 1 and view 2. The other ones are grayed out because they're not currently open. So now we're going to see, what does this look like in a reference file? So we're going to go to File, Open. We're going to change files. We're going to go ahead and close the level manager. And now in the level display, you're going to see listed below your active file, your reference files. So if I select this reference file, what you're going to see are the levels for that discrete reference. If I go to BB, there's the levels for that one. And if I select my active file, you can see here's the levels for my active file. Now you're going to notice that there's a couple of gray ones here. What that means is that because up here I've selected 2 views, and it's showing me that in one view it's on and in the other view it's off. So the gray means you have different states for the views you have selected. If I change this back to say follow active view, you can see that goes away because it's just for the active view, not for the view that I would select. So here we can go ahead and select a reference file. Let's say, for example, BB. I can turn it off here by right-clicking and display off. That's turning off the display of the reference file. That's across the board. You can see reference display is off. If I come down here, you also can see that it's grayed out. If I select it again, right-click, display on, that's a quick way to do it. And I can right-click, I can detach the reference, I can also attach another reference or open the reference file dialog box. So there's a lot we can do from just the level display dialog here. So hopefully this is going to give you a good understanding of levels, and you know how to get to the CT tab and go to the template manager in the CT line style selector. That will help you to be compliant to the Caltrans standards. And don't forget Alt Data. That is a great tool. See you in the next video.